So the 9.2 PTB is dropping soon, and the community has collectively lost their mind. Behavior's planning a big shakeup to how the game is played. And of course, players are already saying it's the end of Dead by Daylight, before they've even played it. And we all know they've never been wrong before. Like when everyone said the ghoul was too weak, Clown was officially dead, or that Shoulder the Burden was the end of Killers as we know it. The two main topics I want to cover today are the tunneling and slugging changes, and then also the community's reaction as a whole. But I'll quickly touch on the rest of the patch because it's kind of whatever. The Michael Myers change, the update, it's really uninspired. I don't really get it. Like, he was cool and really unique in the stalking thing, and I guess you still stalk, but I don't know. Like, his main issue was Tombstone. It wasn't really the way he played. And the funny thing is, like, coup de grace builds are actually one of the most common and, like, memed on Myers builds that people play, and, like, content creators are making videos and stuff. So they just made his power like a coup de grace thing. And people are like, this is so out of line with what Michael Myers would do. And it's like, you guys have been playing Lunge Myers for 3 years, you know, or however long it's been. It's not that crazy. Is it boring and uninspired? Yeah, definitely. But people are acting like it's the most out of character thing. Yeah, he's been doing it. So the worst thing about the change is actually the fact that I have to hear unfunny people say dash slop for the next however many months until, you know, they come up with some new meme term. The clown change, it really depends on the actual numbers, but based on their wording about it being in between 9.1 and live, I don't think he's going to change much. If anything, it's just going to make his hinder effect better while leaving the speed aspect good, which is just a buff. The unknown getting changes, buffs is cool. I hate that they do this thing where, I get it's a quality of life thing. Anytime a add-on is really common, they just make it base kit. But the unknown is cool and fun to play against, and I'm sure he's fun to play as, so good for the unknown players for sure. Alright, but let's get to the real meat of this thing. Let's start with the slugging reduction update. The main thing is, if a survivor is left in the dying state for a total of 90 seconds during the match, they gain the ability to pick themselves up after fully recovering. You can disable it, there's some other stuff, whatever. Gradually increase the crawling speed for survivors who are left in the dying state. Added the ability for survivors to recover while crawling. Recovery now occurs passively with no need to hold a button. And then they updated some stuff. The dev note. When it comes to slugging, we know it can be frustrating, and if you're on the receiving end of it too often or for too long, but we also know that sometimes it's a smart move. This updated system acknowledges this, allowing the killer to slug occasionally when they feel like it's the right call, but will eventually kick in and swing in the survivor's favor if slugging is used excessively. A big part of this is also making the experience of being slugged more pleasant, as much as being slugged can be the least. The recovery changes and crawling speed give you a bit more agency when down, so you aren't just holding a button and waiting for someone to come save you. Yeah, that's awesome. As a survivor main, being slugged is obviously like one of the most annoying things. It might just be the most annoying thing, especially when people are using it toxically. But the first thing I want to say, just right off the bat, the reactions to this, where it's like people are saying, you know, wow, okay, so now I can't ever pick anybody up because there might be someone nearby, and if there are, then they get infinite, and if I don't pick them up, then if I go to pressure the person, then I can't get, and then they get 90, and it's like, whoa. Let's start really quickly. I would do this if it wouldn't kill my viewer retention, but you should set an alarm on your phone for 90 seconds and then go stare at a wall. And then just realize how long 90 seconds is. Like, this is not you get undying after 20 seconds of being on the ground for the rest of the game. Which, by the way, it is for the rest of the game. One of the devs eventually clarified. They said, quick question for the anti-slug. Does it unlock the ability to self-pick up forever once you've been down for 90 seconds? Or is it a one-time thing? And it says, good question. If you've been left in the dying state for 90 seconds and self-pickup, the 90-second timer doesn't reset. That means if you're left in the dying state again, you'll be able to self-pick up again if you fully recover. Even this guy's who's posting this is saying, you know, yep, killers are completely fucked. If down someone on a pallet, there's another survivor nearby, whatever. Okay. For one, like I mentioned, 90 seconds is an insanely long time. You're not... Slugging like that is basically out of line, you know? The other annoying thing is that in all these made-up scenarios that killer mains talk about, for one, this shit almost never happens. Secondly, all these scenarios that they come up with, it's like, oh, there's always someone near the person I'm chasing, and they're always ready with a flashlight or a pallet save. And I always have to look, and then I'm wasting more time. And it's like, dude, if two people, you have one you're chasing, you're basically chasing two people. Because that other guy is doing bumfuck nothing. And all of a sudden that's a problem. You're like, oh my god, I'm getting... there's always a survivor nearby. And it's like, you have two survivors who aren't doing gens. That is a win for you. But in your head, the worst thing that can ever happen to you is being pallet stunned or flashlight saved on. And it's like, it's really not that big of a deal. You just move on and, you know, knock the guy down again. To me, it's kind of crazy that the slugging aspect was even controversial at all. Like, with 90 seconds being such a long time. But the tunneling change is the one that really riled everyone's feathers. So let's read that. Tunneling reduction update. When a survivor's hooked, their hook status is hidden from the killer. When they're unhooked, there is no notification and their hook status isn't revealed immediately, which is disabled when all gens are completed. Unhooked survivors gain the following effects for a limited time. Haste, Endurance, and Elusive. Elusive is this new effect where it's like Iron Will. Your scratch marks are gone, the blood, the noises, everything. No collision with other players, both killer and survivor, so body block hysteria is kind of out. Immunity to killer instinct and seeing the killer's aura nearby. That's good, so the guy doesn't just accidentally walk into the killer again. These effects are lost when the affected survivor performs a conspicuous action. This is basically all these types of effects. So if they go to actually progress the game, those effects are all null and void. And then all of these effects, except the haste and endurance, are disabled once gens are completed. Added a unique effect to the killer hook state UI that indicates the last survivor hooked, so you can't accidentally tunnel. I know that's like the number one thing people were like, oh my god, bully squads are all going to wear the same thing. No, the UI will tell you who's who. After completing a unique hook, the same survivor is not hooked consecutively. Killers get the following benefits. Bonus damage for the next gen kick, so like mini pop, I guess. Temporary haste status effect. Temporary reveals survivors, think base kit, barbecue, and chili, that have lesser equal hook states to the hooked survivor. These effects are slightly lessened for the top tier killers, which is awesome. That's a really cool change. Hopefully they just make a label for this, like the entities guys or something. And then they could just quickly say, oh, this doesn't affect the entities guys. And then these effects are disabled once all gens are completed. So the game is not only going to be punishing you for tunneling, but it's going to be rewarding you for not tunneling, which is awesome. Added new effects that disincentivize tunneling. If a survivor dies before 6 total hook states, all remaining survivors gain a repair speed bonus for the rest of the trial. If the survivor that was last hooked is sacrificed or killed, generators cannot be regressed or blocked. You can turn these off in custom games, and then they change some perks. Quick snapshot reaction to this, as a survivor main especially. Obviously, I think it's good to reduce tunneling. I've had a video about it on my channel where I thought the best way to disincentivize tunneling was just punishing blood points, because a lot of people, they care about that. And if you don't care about that and you just care about winning, you could still do it. This is actively going to change how and when people tunnel, if they still decide to do so, which I think is good. Like, tunneling is bad, period. If you're in comp, I've already said it before in my other videos, comp, it's completely different. But we're talking about just public matches where people are trying to have fun, enjoy the game, and you're tunneling people. No, that's bad. Let's see what the dev says. It's no secret that tunneling can be seen as an efficient way to play for killers. While this can be true, it's also true that the result of this can be frustrating for survivors, leading to trials ending too quickly for some, while leaving others to fend for themselves in a match that is now much more difficult. The intention here is for both roles to feel the benefits and incentives that come from spreading hook states. On the one end, survivors have better opportunities to evade and reset after unhooks, while also limiting those situations where losing a survivor too quickly causes things to go south quickly and snowball. On the other end, killers are able to apply more map pressure to push back against efficient teams, covering ground post-hook and strengthening gen regression. And the devs, they're absolutely right. When you're making a game, we're talking about a video game. This is not, nobody's playing for money or whatever, because like we said, that's a completely separate issue. You're trying to have fun. Tunneling is not fun for the other side. And as much as people love to say this little, oh, I'm not responsible for your fun, dude, you absolutely are responsible for other people's fun in this game and in any game. If you're playing multiplayer with anybody and you play like a fucking asshole and you're like, I'm not responsible for your fun, dude. Get over it, bro. I'm spawn camping you. I'm using a fucking cheap tactic. Like, whatever, dude. It's whatever. I'm just winning, Like, dude, if you're like that in the rest of your life, there's probably a reason you don't have many friends. Don't do shit like that, man. Like, you got to realize everyone's trying to have a good time. The thing with all of these changes, and the reason that the overreaction per usual is so frustrating, is we don't even know the numbers. Like, as stupid as it sounds, I can see them doing these all like 2% or whatever. And, I mean, it's a buff or a nerf or whatever, but it's so minimal that it won't change much. The other changes, especially the 6 hook thing, that's what I really want to talk about, because the hysteria around this change, man. They're like, I'm being punished for killing before 6 hooks. And then, they're playing a 3v1 at 4 gens. Yeah, you won the game, congrats. What the fuck are you complaining about? You're like, I can't regress the gens and I can't kick the gens anymore. You won. You already won the game. Like, the game isn't about gens anymore. It's about just killing the rest of the survivors. People are just so ass backwards with their logic, where they tunnel vision, they miss the forest for the trees. It's like, I killed someone before 6 gens, but I'm losing. Like, what are you talking about? You just don't understand how the game works. If anything, what I'm surprised by is how no one's offered up the other solution, which is, if the survivors get to 1 gen, 2 gens before they get so many hooks, why doesn't the killer get a buff? Like, why wouldn't that be the reaction? Because in my opinion, that's the way they should have done it. Keep this 6 hook thing for the survivors, no gen regression, whatever. But this is just a comeback mechanic. Like, that's the whole point of this. Tons of video games, especially competitive ones like fighting games, comeback mechanics are very common. And what they could have done, which would have made the public outcry much less, and I think is probably a good option, is, yeah, if the survivors are way ahead with no hooks, buff the killer. Like, I don't know, gen progress is like way slower, or the hook, or like gen opening the gates takes longer, or they get, lethal procs. I don't know what they would do. I haven't thought about it too much, but that is the route to go. And even in that world, if they get to 1 gen and the killer has 4 hooks, it probably is over for the killer that game too. So in both ways, these comeback mechanics are minimal because the game is basically over. So it will help people in those 5%, 1% of times, whatever it would be. And otherwise, it will stop people from bad behavior. Like I said before, though, the real annoying part of this whole thing is not even the changes to the game, it's the community's reaction, Okay, all killers that aren't the top 5 are dead, This guy's fuck your C and B tier killers, right? You won't see anything other than S and A ones. And then this tier list with the really funny speed photo. For one, you're snitching on yourself. You're basically saying, I can't play. Dude, he's got like Wesker and Oni and the artist. Dude, there's like plenty of like amazing killers here. And it's like, oh, well, You know, if you don't play these top 6 killers, you have to tunnel and slug, right? No, you're just dog shit at killer. Just let's be honest, you're snitching on yourself. You can't play killer, and you lean on slugging and tunneling as a crutch. You just suck ass, man. Get better. You want to talk about skill issue? That's a skill issue. And then here's another one, you know, forced accidental tunneling because the survivors are all wearing the same thing. Yeah, except the UI tells you who you last hooked. So this is just, I don't know, you didn't read the patch notes, I suppose. This guy, how dare you tunnel me for standing right in front of you all game long? Me body blocking the killer for the entire game knowing my team will be rewarded for my behavior. Except you aren't doing gens. Like, you're talking about a guy who's just standing in front of the killer the whole game. Like, what are you talking about? This shit does not happen. And it won't happen. These changes don't encourage that. That is just throwing. Like, honestly, I'd report that survivor for griefing. What are you talking about? And then this last one. 3-man survivor groups are random and then leaving them on hook to get a gen speed bonus. Like, again, we don't even know the numbers, but even if it was 100% speed, you're leaving one on hook. The killer has left the hook. He's now looking for the other gens that are progressing or another survivor. So then there's 2, and now it's a 2v1. 2 survivors versus the killer because one of them is being chased / downed or maybe even hooked. Because in this world you've created, the game starts as a 3v1. Like, this is so beyond stupid. You don't understand how the game works. Or you are insanely bad at killer. There's really only those 2 options. This one, we don't need the PTB to have opinions. Which is not true because the DBD community, especially Reddit, is wrong all the time. Fuck, even when they're playing the PTB, they're wrong all the time. Like, the ghoul will always be the funniest thing where people were calling him a D-tier killer. They just thought he was gonna be bad. Like, these guys don't know what they're talking about. Killers now having to do college algebra every time they see a survivor, which, I mean, I'm not sure most killers can do first grade math, so let's not get ahead of ourselves. This guy, shit like this puts into question the point of the killer role at all. Why the fuck are survivors given so much power over the match when they are survivors? Killers should be the power role. The fuck? They should feel impossible to beat because they're the killer. Shaking my head. Now, hopefully this guy's being sarcastic, because if the game was just unbeatable killer versus survivors and you die every time and that's like lore accurate or makes sense, quote unquote, who the fuck would be playing this game? It'd be dog shit. Keep people like this away from the balancing, please. This person, they're saying, you know, they have no words and they've got to switch to being a survivor main. It's probably good considering they think you have to tunnel and slug. At least that's what they imply to play anyone who is competent at all at the game. No, you're just bad at killer. Let's move on. Now this guy, Momo is not a scrub. This guy, he's one of the GOATs. He's actually insanely good at this game. But he had this post, and I wanted to talk about this as the final subject. This is why we need 2 separate game modes, so the casual players can play in whatever this is, referring to the patch. And people that actually want to play seriously versus like-minded players can do so. A ranked DBD server was made yesterday, and it already has 2.5k members. People want ranked. He then goes on to say, these are the common arguments and why they're not valid. Yes, people could still go into unranked and stomp, but that is something that people could do in other games and isn't really a problem. The way the game is right now include people in unranked stomping already. The queue times would be longer, but I guarantee most people would rather wait for a good match. A lot of people would stick with the game more because ranks give people an incentive to play. Tell me what other big PvP games don't have ranked. Would you play Valorant if you couldn't flex your rank to your friends? Would you play Clash Royale if there was no trophy system? Ranked would bring in a whole new audience and serve to increase the skill level of the player base. His main point here that people would go into unranked and stomp, but they do that in other games, so what's the problem? It's like, well, that's the problem. The game is not made to be competitive, for one. If you want to play competitively, like you even mentioned at the beginning of this tweet chain, there is a ranked server. There's always been ladder for 1v1s and all that. There's tournaments that people do. Just play with them. The problem with it is twofold. Like you said, the queue times for one would be longer, which is not good. They're already terrible for killer, and they would just get much worse. Secondly, leaving a casual quote-unquote playlist you're talking about, oh, well, people can already be stomping in DBD, so why does it matter? Well, the reason it matters is now they all will just choose the casual playlist. So the toxic people that you're referring to, or you're not referring to, but kind of beating around the bush with, they're not going to go play comp players. They don't want to go get shit on and then be in a bad mood. They're going to go shit on the casual players who just want to have fun. So you're just creating an even worse environment for the people that behavior is worried about. Because let's be honest, they're not worried about people who want to play competitively. And also, if you're playing Valorant to flex your rank, like, you got to get a job, bro. That's insane. You know, there's this really funny post about the dev cycle, or the DBD cycle, whatever you want to call it. Devs drop new patch notes. Everyone complains about how bad they are. Everyone complains about everyone complaining about how bad they are. PTB drops and it's as bad as everyone thought. No way this makes it to the actual game. And then it makes it to the actual game, and then it just cycles forever. The title of the post was, "This game feels like an abusive relationship," which is basically what I've said about this game every single time. Because we're just stuck playing this as it's one of the only options. I've now, you know, the more I make these videos, people have been bringing to light some other alternative ASIMs that I should probably try. But a lot of people just love DBD, including myself. And we're just stuck with this abusive dev team and this abusive player base, and you know, but we just keep coming back. We can't help it. And for those of you who keep coming back to my videos, I appreciate it, man. Thank you so much for all the support. We're past 300 subs now, and we're still growing, and things have just been going great. So, like and sub, okay? Thank you, bye.